Normally we're swinging up in this joint, but today for Sabre we get to the point. Learning a move in which you can trust, because giving point means delivering the thrust. Hey friends, Lauren back with you. Part 3 of Hutton's Sabre, our overview of Cold Steel, and today we get to the point. That means we are talking about thrusting, of course. But in Hutton's system, it is called giving point. And we'll need a second Sabre in a moment just to demonstrate something. Put that away. I have a Sabre. I need to thrust. And thrusts win fights. We all know that. Thrusts are good. Got range. Particularly for the end of the 19th and into the early 20th century, we're getting either a shallow curve or straight sabers. Thrusting, particularly from horseback, you're giving point as you ride past, letting the saber drop, bring it around. Thrusting becomes a key part of the design. So these Hutton-style gymnasium sabers have a slight curve to them. We're going to still see, Eastern European, particularly Polish, Hungarian, other things like that, a much bigger curve, very different system than Hutton's military system for Sabre. And what we're going to have is a division into 4 of the body where you deliver your thrusts. And it's called giving point. Okay? This will be a shorter video, incidentally, because we've gone through a lot of core concepts. We know about cutting. We know about defending. Well, a thrust is a good riposte. You parry, riposte with a thrust rather than a cut. It is quick, it is dangerous, and it gives you reach. So it's an excellent thing to do. But we have the body divided into 4s. And we have tierce and quart, low tierce and low quart. So let me explain how it works. Now, when we are doing our parrying or our guard positions, depending on the situation, so parry quart, for example, that's my quart side. And if I parry tierce, that's my tierce side. So my right side is my tierce, and my left side is my quart. How does this apply to thrusts? Well, when I have an opponent in front of me, their right side is their tierce, and their left side is their quart. So if I'm thrusting from my left to their right, I am giving point tierce. And if I am thrusting from my right to their left, I am giving point quart. Because it's based on their defenses that I'm trying to get past and thrust. And if I'm going low to the lower quadrants, then it's point low tierce or point low quart. Okay. Thrust are very good. A cut comes in, you parry. Obviously, you deliver point. So, cut 1. Come across, maybe my point is a little bit low, I can come in with a cut, sure, or I can try and stay on the opposing blade and drop the point to their quart or their tierce. And I can actually come across, so I can go to their right side or I can go to their left side, either one. So I don't have to go to the closest part, but keep in mind you have to view where your opponent is. Normally, if it's right-handed versus right-handed, and you have the range, you drop right in, you're probably going to be delivering point tierce. But you can come across for point quart, especially if you have the room and want to take a step for something a little more powerful. Okay? Remember, your whole body is going to go into the thrust. It's not just your arm. So I scoop it, I move, I am pushing, I am generating all that power. So I'm not overextending, I'm bringing the body in as well. So the power really comes from my legs and is being transferred through down into the saber. So it's not always just an arm thing, it is a full body action. Okay, that's very important for delivering. So if you're practicing at home, step as well as extend. Get your whole body into it. Alright, that's the basics of some thrusting. Now we understand. We've got 4 targets that are per Hutton system. Doesn't mean you can't thrust into the upper thigh, doesn't mean you can't thrust at the face, but there is some, like a code of conduct, being polite in the system. Much like we talked about, Hutton says, cut 8 is ungentlemanly to cut for the nethers. Same thing. We are aiming. Now, important to note, and that's why I need the other saber. I know, I'm holding this weird, but what I want to explain is when you are parrying and controlling the opposing blade, you always want to make sure that the shell is turned towards the blade when you thrust. So, if cut 1 comes in, and there's the sword, and I block, and I thrust, my hand is protected. There's a lot of effort to get over and cut my hand or my arm if I turn it. So I don't want to come out and thrust away from where that sword is, because the person can step to the side and cut my arm. Okay? So we always turn the shell towards the blade. If a cut 2 comes in at me and I stop it here, you see, yeah, that's naturally, that works. So as a parry riposte, you're automatically lined up for that. But what if I attacked and I wanted to disengage? Here I am. Of course, the shell is lined up, protected from the opponent's blade. When I dip under, and of course it's difficult to do with one person and 2 swords. When I dip under and I do my little disengage move, I want to turn the blade over as I ride along the opposing blade to deliver point, so that I have the shell protected. I don't want to thrust like this because there'll be a sidestep and an attack to my arm. A little difficult for me to demonstrate on my own, but I attack, I give cut 1, it's parried court, I dip under for the disengage to thrust, I turn and stutter step forward and deliver the point into the opponent. That is the basic motion. So I don't come under like this, I come under like that. Okay? I always want the shell aligned with the opponent's blade. So a lot of the times when I'm being defensive, sure, that works. If I am attacking and I'm trying to follow up with a thrust after my cut, I have to make sure that as I disengage, I am turning that shell towards the opposing blade. Not so easy to do from the cut 2 side, but fairly effective from the cut 1 side. Okay, and to finish up this, slightly shorter video than the last 2, we also have what we call stop thrust. So Hutton likes to talk about impetuous rush. So impetuous rush means someone who just winds up and wants to swing at you. Maybe someone who's not really well trained. Maybe someone using a very different system, a different sword, and you've got your saber. What happens if you need to deal with someone who's coming at you with a big swing? Well, what you can do is a stop thrust. So here I am, I'm in my guard. We'll just say I'm in the medium position here, and the person is coming in, they're rushing, they're stepping, they're winding up. I take my back foot, I drop down, I really bend my knees, I lift the sword up, and I just kind of put it into the direction they're coming from. So here comes the opponent. Now from here, so I am just dropping my weight down, moving my head a little bit, dropping and bending my knees, lowering my weight, stabilizing, and just putting the sword in the way. So I give the saber's point into the path of the opponent and have them run right onto it. Plus, I'm holding it here with the shell and their blade coming in, and I'm defended from it. Oh, so that's called a stop thrust. And you can do an under stop thrust, which means you really go low, but if I do that, you can't quite see it, so I'm not going to do that. But it's really neat. You have to stick your arm out, you're down, you really have to get your balance, but you are basically, especially against a larger opponent, you are extending yourself out, really stretching your back leg out, bending your front knee, getting out of the way of the attack by ducking under it and throwing your point into the opponent. So a stop thrust as well. Okay? So that's just a really basic look at the thrusts in Hutton's system. Lots of practice, of course, needed. Remember, your shell always turn to the opposing blade. I attack, disengage, I turn for the thrust. Someone who takes a really big swing and is rushing at me, I just extend. Yes, there's always the benefit if you can turn parallel to the ground, or horizontal, I guess you could say. You know, you're going through the ribs rather than getting stuck in them. But it's a saber. It'll be fine. Just hit the opponent, and if you can, turn the shell to protect your hand and your arm. Okay? Thrusts are going to need a lot of good motion from your knees. Squats are a good exercise. You can lunge with a thrust as well, so that you can extend your range. So especially if it's someone with longer arms or taller opponent, learn to lunge. If you do rapier, excellent. You'll have a lot of great examples for lunging. In Hutton system, we don't have necessarily a lot of lunges, but because we can see that lower motion from the stop thrust, we can then do it with a step forward, and we can also intercept that way with a lunging thrust using the saber. All right, so we're almost done with everything we want to talk about for the saber. We've done our cuts, we've done all of our guard positions and parrying and riposts, and now we've done thrusts, stop thrusts. What does that leave us? The back or false edge. That'll be a next video where we will finish up our series on Hutton Sabre, just our introduction to a lot of the basic concepts to help you start if you want to do some late 19th century saber. Just get you practicing, and then pick up that copy of Cold Steel, read through it. There are a lot of drills, exercises. Hopefully you have someone that you can practice with, and it'll be great. So next time we'll get to the false edge or back edge of the saber, because it is sharpened to about there. You do have cutting ability with it, but for now, do remember to like, subscribe, and of course comment, because your comments really do help shape the content of the channel, and I always appreciate them. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and get to the point.